Today on Love Your Lettering, we begin using a calligraphy pen with a broad tip. To get started in this section of Love Your Lettering, you'll need to choose your pen. There's a wide variety of broad tip pens available on the market. The felt tip calligraphy markers are the least expensive and easiest to use for both left and right-handed letterers. There are a number of brands that also offer a dual tip pen so that you can have two sizes in nibs. The Pigma calligrapher pens have a rigid plastic nib that holds up to hard use but requires a slow and steady hand to get a consistent stroke. The Pilot Parallel pen is a great option for those wanting to experiment with many aspects of broad nib calligraphy. It is a cartridge-based pen with metal plates that create the broad nib. The ink flows well regardless of my grip. The key ingredient to broad nib lettering is the angle of the nib. The two ways I'll be demonstrating are a 90-degree and 45-degree angle. This angle refers to the relationship of the broad side of the nib to the baseline. As you form letters, you maintain this angle by moving your hand or arm and not your fingers. This is a side grip for left-handed. However, I prefer to turn my page to the right so that my hand is under the line and I can pull the pen. If you are right-handed, in order to maintain this angle, you may want to orient the paper to your left so that you can pull the pen towards the baseline while maintaining these degrees. You'll notice these 45-degree angle strokes result in the left side of the stroke touching the baseline. Working at a 90-degree angle means that the nib of the pen is parallel to the baseline. And again, I'm pulling the stroke towards the baseline. Creating a downstroke at a 90-degree angle will mean that the stroke will sit flush at the baseline. On this first page, I'll be doing all my strokes at a 90-degree angle. We're going to do downstrokes, diagonals, upstrokes, and curves. My natural left-handed grip is a blend of overwriting and side writing. However, for calligraphy, it helps if I switch the orientation of my paper so that my hand is under the line. You may have to experiment to find a good angle that's comfortable for you, and it will take some training to teach yourself how to pull the pen instead of pushing. However, with the calligraphy markers, you will have ink flow even when you're pushing. It's sort of a cheater method. With the pen at a 90-degree angle, you'll notice that the downstrokes are very broad and the entry or exit strokes tend to be hairlines. The diagonal strokes feel a little bit awkward as you push the pen up. As we work these downstroke curves, you'll notice that it's my hand that does the movement to create the curve. You do not want to twist the pen in your fingers. Keeping the nib's angle consistent as you move your hand or arm through these strokes will result in the variation between the hairline and the broad stroke. So now for my right-handed friends. Again, you'll want to switch the orientation of your paper to what's comfortable, mostly leaning left, and pull the strokes down. Switching to the parallel pen just so that you can see the ink flow. But keep in mind, I'm not a dominant right-handed person, so these lines are a little bit shaky. What I really appreciate about the parallel pen being left-handed is that when I vary the grip that I have, whether it's underwriting, overwriting, or side writing, because of the parallel nature of the nib, the ink continues to flow and I have very little skipping. Before we work at the 45-degree angle, I want to talk to you about size. The size of your nib determines how big your letters should be. Using the broad side of the nib, make checker boxes 7 high. The height of 5 boxes is your X height, and the height of 7 boxes is your cap height. You can work larger or smaller than this, but it will look best when you work within this proportion. Remember that working at a 45-degree angle means orienting the nib to be 45 degrees to the baseline. Feel free to move your paper at an angle that makes these strokes the most comfortable for you. When you consistently hold the nib at 45 degrees, just the left edge should touch your baseline. Work through the page in downstrokes, entry strokes into downstrokes, diagonal strokes, upstrokes, and curves. I can already see my typical lefty problems showing. Since I'm working overwriting and side writing, I've already left a mess of ink on my hand and on the paper. The best way to avoid that mess is to turn the paper towards my right so that my hand is now under the line that I'm writing, allowing me to pull the strokes and avoid smudging the wet ink. Remember, as you draw the curves, you're moving your hand and arm, not twisting your fingers. Don't be afraid to take your time reviewing these strokes. It takes a while to get comfortable with the orientation of the nib. Join me next time as we start writing letters with the calligraphy pen.